This is Josiah Hikes, Mount Tallac. So, I'm out here doing my 50th hike of the summer and doing something special, Mount Tallac, which is considered to be one of the most popular and beautiful hikes and peaks around Lake Tahoe. It directly overlooks Lake Tahoe and is said to be, quote, the jewel in the crown of the mountains ringing Lake Tahoe. It's also said to offer, quote, unparalleled views. So we'll see if I get up there and the views are truly unparalleled. My sources don't specify whether or not the views are perpendicular or not, but paralleled, definitely not. So let me give you a little shot of where I'm going here. So there it is, Mount Tallac, and it's a little bit taller than it probably looks here on this little camera on the screen, but it's up there. You can see a little snow on it. Of course, you can't really see the mountain all that well, but nonetheless, there it is. So I'm going up to the top of that, and it's about a 10-mile hike, and I think around 3,500 feet of elevation gain, so it'll be a bit of a climb, but it's supposed to be pretty gorgeous up there, overlooking Lake Tahoe and the surrounding mountains and some other smaller lakes, and so I'm excited. So I will stop at scenic points along the way, take some more footage so you can see and share in the Mount Tallac adventure. So I just climbed up this very small ridge just to the left of the trail I was taking. It was off to the right that I was pointing the camera before. That's up that way through the trees is where Mount Tallac is, where I was showing you a minute ago. But I decided just to see what was over this little ridge on the other side of the trail. And there's a cool rock and a tree that's had a bad run-in with some lightning. And there's the rest of the tree, as you can see. But no, I found that just right here on the other side of the trail, some awesome stuff. This right here is Fallen Leaf Lake. I've hiked around this lake before. It's pretty beautiful. And I didn't realize I could just come up here on this little ridge and see it so clearly from where I was, but yeah, there it is. And that over there is the south end of Lake Tahoe. Now Lake Tahoe is a huge lake, so that is only a tiny, tiny little piece of it. But apparently from the top of Mount Tallac I'll be able to see most of it, if not all of it. So yeah, so there's a little bit of Lake Tahoe. There's Fallen Leaf Lake. And up there is the mountain I'm going up to. So I'm going to proceed up the trail now, but I just thought I'd show you what I can see from very close to the bottom. Okay. Up I go. Oh, Mount Tallac's about 9,700 feet or so, which means it's not a huge mountain. It's about 1,000 feet shorter than Mount Rose, but the climb itself, the actual hike to the top, starts from a couple thousand feet lower elevation, so you end up climbing an extra 1,000 feet even though the mountain is technically lower. So yeah, there's a little scenery for you, and I'll take some more footage the next time I see something cool. Josiah here again. So I'm enjoying this so far. I haven't gone very far, but it's just gorgeous. I found a cool spot here where I've got an awesome view of the mountain, real clear, and the lakes behind me. So I'm going to show you what I can see, but if you look behind me, you can see the mountain up there, and there's the trail going up, and there's the sun shining into the camera because I'm a camera noob, and there's the lakes back behind me. But I'll give you another look here real quick because this is a good spot. So there it is, the infamous Mount Tallac. It looks a lot bigger and more grandiose like here in person than it does on the screen, but you know, there's a Fallen Leaf Lake down there and Lake Tahoe. You can see more of it now, but it stretches out a long way that you can't see. And you know, there's the trail coming up and going up that way. So yeah, I'm going up to the top of that bad boy, so I'm going to get an awesome view up there. This is pretty exciting. I'm having fun taking some video of my 50th hike, my special magical adventure. So this is Josiah Hikes, and I'll see you soon. Josiah again, like anyone else would suddenly be on here. But I just want to show you this awesome tree. It's like this huge dead tree, and it's just white, and it just goes up and up and up and up and up. Look at those branches. It looks a lot cooler when you can kind of see the whole thing in context, but it's just an awesome looking tree. There's a mountain back behind it. You can still see the lakes back there. You can see even more of Lake Tahoe now. But let's see here if I can get it better. Look at this tree from over here. There's the mountain. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I like trees like this that are just very distinctive looking. Anyway, there it is, and there's my goal. There's Fallen Leaf Lake, and onward I go up the trail. So now I've come to the point of the trail where I'm going alongside a little lake called Floating Island Lake, apparently. And of course we're going to check it out here. So this is Floating Island Lake. Not quite sure why it's called that, as I'm not really seeing any floating islands. But there it is. Pretty exciting. It's not exactly the most amazing bit of scenery we're going to see, and of course the mountains up there, up top, so we're kind of working our way around the side of it. And yeah, Floating Island Lake. You've seen it here first, probably. Unless you've been up here, then you've probably seen it here second. Alright, moving on. Okay, we have reached the second of the two small lakes that you pass on the trail heading up to the summit of Mount Tallac. This one is called Cathedral Lake, apparently. And we'll go investigate. This is what the country looks like around here. The summit's up there someplace. We're about to make a hard right and start heading up the steeper part of the ascent. Although there's been a reasonable amount of climbing so far, none of it's been super steep. So here it is, Cathedral Lake. It's not much of a lake, but I suppose it's still quite a bit better than Church's Pond, isn't it? So I'm gonna get on this big rock right here. And give you guys a look at what we're working with here. It's pretty impressive outcropping of rock up there. Looks a lot less impressive on the screen. But yeah, this is it, Cathedral Lake. Maybe it was named because of that big outcropping of rock up there, and sometimes to me that reflects on the surface of the water and led someone to feel a sort of spiritual awe here. Maybe this place kind of took on a pseudo-religious significance and thus became someone's de facto nature cathedral. Or maybe it was named that for some entirely different reason. We may never know. What I do know is I'm enjoying this hike a lot so far. It's a beautiful day. This is the best weather in this area. best the weather's been here for a while, and the best it's gonna be for a while. So that's why I chose today to do this hike. Let's see here. Let me turn the camera around for a second. So, yeah, here I am, Cathedral Lake. I'm enjoying it. It's nice and peaceful, tranquil. It's a pretty beautiful place, really. Of course, we're on our way to somewhere significantly more amazing, I think, but this is a nice little spot. I could hang out here and have a picnic. I'm not going to, but I could, you know, especially if I was not by myself. But yeah, it's nice up here. According to Strava, I've gone 2.9 miles so far, which means I've only got a couple miles to go to the summit. And it said I've gone about 1,300 feet of climbing. I've done about 1,300 feet of elevation gain. So I suspect I have around 2,200 maybe-ish, give or take 100 more feet over the course of 2 miles. So that will be a steeper grade the rest of the way than it has been so far. But I'm not worried about it. I'm pretty well conditioned at this point. Like I said, this is my 50th hike of the summer, so since June. So I've been doing enough hiking that I'm in pretty decent shape for it now, even though might not look like it. I'm still pretty overweight, but I'm actually better conditioned than I appear, because I've been running a fair amount this summer too, as well as all the hiking. So it doesn't really feel that hard for me. When I first started back in June, early June, I couldn't even do a pretty easy hike without it just like totally wearing me out. I was like exhausted. And some of these longer, harder hikes I never could have done. This would have been impossible for me back then, but now it really isn't that hard. Seems, you know, pretty moderate to me at this point. I've lost 100 pounds so far from my top weight, so even though I'm still carrying plenty of extra weight, and I want to lose more, I've lost 100, so I'm feeling quite a bit lighter on my feet than I used to. So it makes it nice, because now I can get out and do stuff like this, you know, and it's not really like a big deal. I don't have to worry about like, oh, can I handle it? So it's fun. Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting up to the top, so I think I'm going to end this bit of vlogging right here, and that's the last you're going to see of Cathedral Lake, at least until I come back down. I might get another shot of it here or something, but yeah, so I'm going to head on up, and I don't know if I'll stop again between here and the summit. I probably will. There'll probably be some nice overlook halfway up or something that I'll stop at. I don't know, we'll see. Anyway, this is Josiah signing off at Cathedral Lake. Okay, so I've climbed up here a little ways, and I just came up around a corner, and I have a nice vista here looking out right down there. You can't actually see it because of the ridge in the way, but that's where that Cathedral Lake was, down over there. There's Fallen Leaf Lake, the smaller one that we were passing next to in the beginning, and of course there's Lake Tahoe, and again, that's not even close to all of Lake Tahoe, but you can see a lot more of it now than you could before. And we're going up, 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 up. So it's beautiful. I'm loving it. Let's Josiah out. Here's a much closer look at the big rock that was overlooking Cathedral Lake that we saw up above us. Now it's not nearly as high above us. Good view of it from here. Pretty impressive piece of rock. I like big rocks. Big rocks and vistas, getting up high and being able to see a long way. Those are the two things that I like. That's what I like to hike for. So there's a big rock. Good times. Found another cool spot here. This that I'm looking at here is that big cathedral rock that I was looking straight up at from below before. Now I'm almost at the level of the top of it. And I'm in this cool little kind of bowl. I don't know how obvious that is looking at the video, but it's pretty neat. It's a little hollowed out kind of bowl. And nice vista looking across there. There's Fallen Leaf Lake, there's Tahoe. And the top is up there somewhere. I mean, what I'm looking at right there immediately in front of us is not the actual summit. The summit's kind of past that, up on the ridge. You can't really see it from here, but that's where we're going. Getting a lot closer now. And this is cool. Look at that big tree over there. Kind of looks small on the video, but it's got a huge, thick trunk. That thing's been there for a while. Yeah, I love just being in cool scenes like this and looking around. I've never been on this mountain before, so it's all new to me. It's exciting. It's fun. All right, well, I'm gonna go up there. So I'll see you at the next spot. Wow, finally made it up to the ridge, up to the saddle, and not at the summit yet, but getting pretty close, and this is pretty awesome up here. I just had a pretty long, hard climb. There's a point where the trail branches off and it's climbing up. Of course, it's coming up this saddle to the top of the ridge here, and you know, it's a pretty steep trail, but it winds back and forth, and you know, it's a trail, so it's not so bad. But you can branch off, as a few people do. It's known as an alternate route, and instead of staying on the trail, you can just branch off and climb straight up the talus, the loose rock, straight up the side, instead of taking the winding switchback trail. And I just did that, and it was pretty tough. It was pretty steep, and it wasn't just walking on a trail. Of course, you're scrambling on rocks, so it's a good time. But I made it up here and feels good. I'm going to show you the view here from this spot. It's pretty exciting. Okay, so here we are. You see Tahoe. I don't know if you can really make them out, but way over there along the shore of Tahoe, you can see some buildings. Those big tall buildings over there, those are the hotel casinos of South Lake Tahoe, of State Line. That's where you cross over from Nevada into California. So I'm in California right now. There's Fallen Leaf Lake down there, and there you can see it, just that little bit of water in between Fallen Leaf and the rocks here. You can see that's Cathedral Lake. So the trail actually goes over and comes out over there somewhere. But I just came kind of straight up the side here, up the rocks. And then that's the way to the summit up there. It's not too much further. All these mountains along here, this is all what's called the Carson Range. And they continue north all the way up to by Reno. Mount Rose is in the Carson Range as well. If you see that little mountain, that little peak sticking out through there, kind of back behind all the others, that's the highest point back there, and it's a little different color because of the way the light's hitting it. Well, that is Frio Peak, which is the tallest mountain in the Carson Range. So it's the tallest mountain really anywhere near Reno or Tahoe, and I climbed that one earlier this summer. It was pretty fun. Nice view from up there. Of course, that day we had bad weather. A big storm came rolling in just as I got to the summit, so kind of spoiled it. I didn't really get to stay up there for very long. And then, you know, you can see looking out the other way to the south and the west, it's just more mountains. Pretty gorgeous though. You can really see a long way from up here, and I'm not even at the summit yet. Right now, of course, you know, the crown of the mountain is in my way to see what's over that other direction. But once I'm up top, I'll have a panoramic view. And that view is allegedly unparalleled. So that's the word that's been used, unparalleled. So when I get up there, I don't expect to see anything paralleling me, or else I'm going to be upset. And see that right there, that little rock in the foreground, you know, the closest kind of rock to us, that's the top of that cathedral rock thing that we were looking up at before, and now we're actually up above it. So, good times. Okay, I'm going to keep climbing. And finally, the summit is reached. I am up at the very top of Mount Tallac, and I have a pretty gorgeous panoramic view from up here. It's pretty awe-inspiring. I'm sure the video doesn't do it justice. That's Fallen Leaf Lake down there that I'm panning past right now. And it's amazing up here. You can see in every direction for a long way. And there's Lake Tahoe, and you can see how much of Lake Tahoe you can see now. It's rather enormous. See, we could only see like this little bit like this over here before, but and there's South Lake Tahoe way off in the distance, and this little tiny lake here is called Cascade Lake, and that bay right there is Emerald Bay, which is a pretty famous area of Lake Tahoe. Emerald Bay, and that's all Lake Tahoe stretching off into the distance a long way. You can see the mountains, you can just see forever. So we're not that high compared to some of the other peaks I've gone up to the top of around here, like Mount Rose is 1,000 feet higher than this. Friel Peak, which is right over there, you can see that sort of differently colored peak sticking out behind there in the distance. That's Friel Peak, and that's the highest in the range. And that's just a few feet shy of 11,000. And I've been up there once. But you know what? The view from up there wasn't nearly as good as this. Of course, that day, the weather wasn't as good, and it was maybe a little more smoke in the air from fires and stuff, so that probably has a lot to do with it. But, you know, you can see a lot of Lake Tahoe from over there, but you're not right next to Lake Tahoe, so it's kind of more off in the distance. From right here, I mean, the video I'm sure is not doing it justice, but it is just awe-inspiring. It is so beautiful. You can really see a long way. In fact, I reckon I can see Mount Rose all the way over there on the other side. Because that's where Mount Rose is way over there on the other side of the lake. So that highest peak over there that we're looking at on that side of the lake is probably Mount Rose. And I'm used to, because I've been up to the top of Mount Rose several times, so I'm used to looking across the lake from that direction, you know, looking this way. So this is a treat, this view. This is just gorgeous. Just absolutely beautiful. I don't know, I would say that given, when you're talking about the peaks around Tahoe, or the Carson Range, or the Reno area, I would say the view from up here is probably deserves to be called unparalleled. I would say this is probably the best panorama. And now there's a couple lakes here. I don't know what they're called. These two little lakes we can see right here, and you can also see another couple lakes off that way. One is kind of real close, right in the foreground there. You can barely see it, kind of behind that tree. And the other's further off in the distance, you can see it. I'm not sure what those lakes are either, but it's kind of cool that I can see, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and, you know, Lake Tahoe, big huge lake. Oh, and Cascade Lake too. So 6 lakes from here, one being Tahoe. I can see a whole ton of mountains. I wish I could identify what all the peaks are, but I don't know what a lot of them are. I just know certain ones. And I know more of the ones that are over on the Mount Rose side or over closer to Friel Peak over there. So a lot of these ones we can see from here, because I hardly ever come over to this side of Lake Tahoe to do hiking and stuff so far. I mean, of course I want to, because look how beautiful this country is over here. But so I don't really know what most of these mountains over here are. I haven't been up on any of these. I've done some hiking over that way, over by where Friel Peak is, and I've done quite a bit over to the northwest, or northeast I should say, you know, over in the direction of Reno. But yeah, this is pretty awesome up here. It is pretty damn awesome. Huh. Wow, I'm pretty happy. I'm having a good time. I had to scramble over some rocks to get here to the actual peak. The trail itself kind of petered out. Well, quite a ways back actually. There was a pretty significant amount of just like rock scrambling to get up here to the actual top. But look at the sun shining on the waters of that lake. Isn't that beautiful? You can see the ripples. I mean, you might not be able to see the ripples very well in this video, but I can see the ripples. Yeah. Good times. Good times. So I'm 9,700 feet up. I believe I'm some 4,000-ish feet above the surface of Lake Tahoe or so. Somewhere between 3,500 and 4,000 feet above the lake. So it's quite a ways down there. And it's funny, you look at it, and it just doesn't look like it's that far down. But then you kind of look down there and you see those little trees way down there, and those are probably pretty tall trees, and they just look like tiny little matchsticks from here. So I guess it is pretty far down. I wish I had a hang glider right now. It's nice and windy up here today. I could just take off and hang glide over the lake or whatever. I don't know. I've never hang glided before, so I don't really know the logistics of it. But it seems like it would be a fun thing to do from up here. But then again, getting a hang glider up to this point would be no joke, because this was a pretty rough, rocky, and steep trail. Okay, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to have a seat, and I'm going to turn the camera around and just talk a little bit more. So this is your last look at stunning, pristine Lake Tahoe, famed around the world. It's a pretty big time tourist destination. And of course there's a lot of skiing around here in the winter. In fact, you might not be able to make it out in this video, but if you look at that mountain right there, you can see ski slopes pretty clearly. Over there too. And there's a lot of ski slopes around on these different mountains. Anyway, yeah, let me have a seat and turn the camera around. Okay, so here I am. I'm at the summit of Mount Tallac. Pretty exciting. I had a nice fun adventure today. I mean, it's not over. I obviously have to do the hike back, but that'll be a lot easier than coming up. It definitely turned out to be a more challenging hike than I was anticipating. That last couple of miles was no joke, especially since I went the hard way and kind of went like straight up the Talus, scrambling up this, just like up to the ridge, pretty much straight up the hill instead of taking the trail like a normal person. So I made it harder on myself. That kind of wore me out. So then the rest of the climbing after that, I mean, there was still quite a bit, because if I was right on my calculations, which I think I was, climbing 2,200 feet in 2 miles is a pretty significant amount of climbing. I mean, that's pretty steep, and it was definitely more challenging than I was expecting. I mean, obviously I was able to do it, but it was no cakewalk. It really wasn't. It's one of the harder hikes I've done out of the 50 hikes I've done around here this summer. Not the hardest. The hardest I did was Ophir Creek Trail back and forth round trip, which is nuts. That hike ended up being, well, with a couple side trips off of the main trail too, that ended up being a 20-mile hike with about 4,500 feet of total elevation gain. So that hike was brutal. I did that one by myself. So that's the longest and most challenging hike I've done. This would probably be the second or third hardest though. Maybe the second hardest. I would judge this as being a little harder than Frail Peak. Definitely harder than Mount Rose. But well worth it, well worth it. It's gorgeous up here. And it's not just gorgeous up here. I mean, all along the way, there were tons of places on this last ascent that I could have stopped and taken some video because there were some gorgeous views, but I figured I'd just wait till I got to the top. And but it's been really enjoyable. I mean, all along the trail, especially when we got to this last part where you're really climbing up, you know, onto the actual prominence of the mountain. There was just incredible vistas and wonderful scenery the whole way, so pretty exciting. I've enjoyed it. I'm glad I decided to do this one as my 50th hike as a special thing, because this is a pretty popular hiking destination. I've seen several people on the trail today, and when I got up here to the summit, there were a handful of people up here, so I just kind of hung out and chatted with them a little bit and waited for them to leave, and now I'm doing my vlogging. I don't think anyone else is going to come up here today because it's already after 3 o'clock in the afternoon, so I'm probably the last person that's going to be on the summit today, realistically, unless somebody's backpacking and they're going to camp up here somewhere, or they're like a through hiker, you know, and they're just coming up here and then they're going to continue on another trail to somewhere else and they're going to camp. Because I think if anybody gets up here much later than this, they're going to be going back. You know, they're going to be kind of cutting it close to going back in the dark, which some people might be willing to do. I mean, occasionally I do hike the tail end of a hike in the dark, like I did the other day. That hike I recorded at the Jones White's Loop. I ended up having to hike in some darkness there. I'm looking. There's a little creature right there. I don't know if you can see him. He's a little chipmunk or something. He's just doing his thing. I have no idea if I'm even pointing the camera at him or not. But yeah. Oh, there he is. I hope I'm pointing the camera at him. I can't really tell. Can you see him? Can you see him? Anyway, I see tons of those on Mount Rose. There's certain spots where, like, I guess they're used to people feeding them. I mean, I've fed them. And so you start feeding them and, like, just tons and tons of them come out of the woodwork. It's pretty awesome. And the wind is blowing my hair around, and my hair, which ordinarily looks awful, now looks more awful. But anyway, so this is it. This is it, the peak, the summit of Mount Tallac in California, right by Lake Tahoe. Pretty awesome hike. If you live anywhere, you know, within a couple of hours of here, or you're ever visiting Lake Tahoe or Northern California or Reno or whatever, and you're into hiking, I can definitely give this one a solid recommendation. Although it was not easy. There was some pretty hard, steep climbing, especially for the last couple miles. So if you're not, you know, a fairly conditioned hiker, I wouldn't recommend it. But if you are, yeah, this is one of the better hikes in the whole region. So I would say go for it if you like to hike, because it is just beautiful up here. I could just hang out here. I mean, I kind of wish I'd gotten an earlier start so that I could spend more time just chilling up here, you know, and maybe brought some more food or something, because, you know, I ate like a protein bar, but that's not really a very exciting picnic. I met a guy that was coming up this trail, though. Today was his 21st birthday, and he had this huge backpack, and he was carrying this 8-gallon jug of champagne. Now, it wasn't full. It wasn't full of 8 gallons, but it still had quite a bit in it, and he brought it up here so he could celebrate at the top, you know, his 21st birthday at the top of the mountain. But he was complaining about how heavy his pack was, and you know, wishing he hadn't done it. Pretty funny though. But anyway, I usually carry about 25 pounds on just about any hike I go on, 25 to 30, because I carry a lot of water, like more than I need. I usually carry like 4 or 4.25 liters of water on me, even for shorter hikes than this, even if I'm not going to drink that much. I mean, I'm not going to drink 4 liters of water today, but I bring it anyway just in case. And a lot of times I'm hiking with other people, and I bring extra in case they don't have enough water or whatever, or in case I just end up needing more for whatever reason. You know, and I bring extra clothes, warm clothes. I mean, I bring a bunch of stuff in my backpack that I don't actually need, that I never actually use. But I don't mind the extra weight because that just makes it more exercise, you know, that just increases the difficulty. So it helps me get in shape, you know, faster. So the weight's good. Anyway, I guess that's about all I have to say right now about hiking, or this hike today. So I've had a grand time. Wow, now I have the sun in my eyes. That's pretty great. Alright, so anyway, I suppose we're done here. I suspect, well, my battery's dying pretty bad on my phone, so I don't know if I'll make another video on the way down or not, but we'll see. I might stop once or twice and make a couple more quick videos on the way down, or I might not. Anyway, this is it. Mount Tallac. Good times. Josiah hikes. Thanks for watching. Unless this is the end of the, not the end of the video, in which case, well, you can still be thanks for watching, but like, that's not the final thanks for watching. Unless it is. Which I guess you'll find out in a few seconds, one way or another. Okay. And I'm back down near the beginning of the trail, looking back up at the mountain. The top of there is where I was earlier. Pretty awesome. The sun's just about to go down. You can see the moon has already come out. There's the moon, looking good. And the sky's got that special color. You can see the color reflecting on the water of the lake. It doesn't really seem obvious on the screen as I'm recording, but it's very visible, very purple. Or perhaps indigo. You can see a lot of it in the sky over there too, although I don't really see it showing up well on the video. Anyway, I've reached the end of my hike. I'm about 5 minutes away from the trailhead where my car is, so that's going to conclude this hiking video. Thank you for coming along with me on my adventure. This has been Josiah Hikes, Mount Tallac.